Some ETFs are now paying income between 8 and 12% yield, or even more in some cases if you're looking at MicroStrategy. And on the surface, it sounds the dog's nuts, doesn't it? But there's a few little things we need to talk about here. A high yield doesn't mean it's good. There's other things under the hood. These are ETFs. They're less likely to lose all your money because of the way they're made up, and I will showcase why. But there's a few little glaringly obvious things because there's a very, very good chance that these will underperform versus the actual index they are mimicking, essentially. So today we're going to look at some of the 5 most popular high income ETFs because I've been asked this question quite a few times. What is my opinion on these? And some are genuinely useful, but there is obviously risks here. If you are going to build a portfolio with this sort of thing, maybe reduce the risk a little bit here. But doesn't mean it's bad, doesn't mean it's good, but there could be some ugly in here as well. Now, if you're new around here, I do invest specifically in dividend paying ETFs and dividend stocks. Mine's kind of a bit of a hybrid. I know some people debate this, but I've had good growth over the last year or so with my portfolio. Some of my ETF funds have done okay. Some stocks, if they're high quality, will perform well in the growth metrics and also grow its dividend and pay you a yield. There's nothing wrong with that. But the caveat is quite simple here. Don't buy aggressively high yields because income is not the same as return. You've got to have a balance of both. If, say, you're going to get 10% income or whatever, which is, I know, high, but that stock or ETF falls maybe 7%, 10%, 15%, you can see where I'm going here. It then becomes a negative thing. What's the point of holding it? Yield can be an advert, just putting that point out there. Now, in terms of these higher yield ETFs, they work a little bit different to the normal ETFs you get. So a ETF that is specifically designed for income will track the best performing income stocks, if that makes sense. So your dividend payers, your strong yield ones, which have never cut their dividends, for example, or really, really strong companies. They will track them and that will give you a higher yield. And peace of mind, potentially here, you can sleep at night. What it's tracking is decent companies. The high income ones, which is how it's marketed, have those companies, but they generate additional revenue. That's kind of how it works. And then the revenue that they generate, they then distribute it out to their holders, basically, their shareholders. Stuff like covered calls and premiums. So you're not just betting on the companies that are within the fund, you're betting on the fund managers and all the kind of stuff around it to generate a little bit more juice for you and squeezing it and then giving it out to you. So it may not be guaranteed, which is kind of a key word here. Remember this, the yield of these are not guaranteed. So let's look at the first one, which is JEPQ, which is the JP Morgan Nasdaq Equity Premium Income ETF, right? This is on my platform. Some of them I don't have on my platform, and I'll go to other websites in a minute. But I don't really want to put them fully on my platform because I think for a beginner, they're kind of a bit dicey, right? Just want to put that out there. This is the thing, disclaimer, none of this is financial advice. If you are a beginner, I would not be touching these just yet. But as I say, if you have been an investor for a while and you've got a decent portfolio and say you want to split up your entire wealth into a bucket of say 5 or 10%, whatever it may be, so you're not going to get blown up, you can look at something like this if you so wish to. But that's what I mean. It's down to you. There is withholding tax on this, but the big situation is it will pay you a monthly income of 10.53% as it stands today, which is pretty mental. It is a strong provider. It's JP Morgan. It is based off the NASDAQ, which is hugely important. But that doesn't mean it's the dog's bollocks, does it? Because there still is a situation we've got to talk about. This is the little bit of the elephant. These are quite new products. They've not been around that long. And when we talk about the market currently, we are in a horrifically mental bullish market, right? Which is fair. I get it. But the performance of the last year hasn't been anywhere near the performance of what essentially you could argue what the NASDAQ has been, if you think about it in that sense. So that's where we've got to look at the drawdowns here. Yes, you're going to get your 10% every single month, which is pretty awesome. But the price returns, which for some people is the bread and butter, it is going to be also tech heavy. You are still going to get that, that rush of, say, maybe volatility in a way, but that yield is not guaranteed. And that is where we've got to talk about that side of it, because that could be a big issue. When we talk about other stuff, it's not terrible, but overall, yeah, You're buying the Nasdaq, you're getting growth. You're also getting the distributions every single month, which is quite good. But is it really worth it yet? What if the market goes very bearish? What's going to happen there? That's other. I know that's stories for another day. But in my honest opinion, this is one of the stronger ones. That's fine. But the danger is thinking that this is going to also give you Nasdaq related kind of growth. And now let me show you. By the way, on my platform, I have like historical data. So this is with inflation. This is like the max data. But if I go to the 1 year, the real CAGR of the last 1 year with the Nasdaq is 25%, give or take. It's a little bit different to what I just showcased on the screen before, which, as you can imagine, yeah, it's very different, isn't it? So, there's a big trade-off there. I know you're getting monthly fees, but that's the big underlying problem we're going to have with all of these. Now, the next one is a JP Morgan Global Equity Premium Income. This one is JGPI, the ticker. Now, again, similar sort of vibes. It is tracking some pretty top companies. It does have an element of Nasdaq-y sort of vibes with like quite small concentration, global exposure, a little bit less US dominance, but it's the same vibe. And again, pay out every single month. This is the thing. You're going to see me repeat the same sort of things. But again, inception date 2023, the market's been pretty good since then. But this is the thing. The risks are it will still use derivatives. It may well cap its upside. And also the total return is going to be judged more than the yield. Because overall, when we look at like global ETFs and stuff like that, like bear with me, let me just go down to the like so it's got a good mix. As you can see, it's fine in that sense. But the situation is pretty, bear with me, clear. That is quite a low performance marker, for my opinion. Yeah, 2024, great. 2025, 0.64%. That is the big, that's the big thing. So yeah, you're going to get an 8% yield. Fair enough. Every single month, cool. But even this has dropped off quite a lot. Like, look at the price changes and how the differences have kind of been there. That's the big situation. We are looking, yes, at like a low, a slightly lower yield here, but much better return. That's better. And then here the yield's gone up a little bit, but the price return has actually been awful. So distribution wise, it's actually been pretty dire. So that again, same situation. It is again not the worst one in the world, but you just got to be bloody mindful of that. That is why the risk is huge. And yeah, you can look at the monthly dividends, but they're not exactly set in the world. Like they're actually sometimes going down, sometimes going up, depending on the price performance, obviously. Volatility wise, not a lot happening, 8%, quite low actually. But overall, proof's in the pudding in it. You want to get some returns. And this, as you can see, has been pretty steady, but hasn't really developed loads and loads of money because, yeah, that yield's nice. But as I say, if you hold it for long enough, it might work out. But if you hold it long enough and say it goes down 20%, that's going to sting. Now, the next one is GLDE, which is Gold Plus Yield ETP. Essentially, it uses covered calls, monthly distribution, higher expense ratio. It is based in Ireland, so if you're in stocks and shares ISA, this is totally fine to use in terms of tax efficiency. However, total returns, interesting. Gold has done fantastic over the last year, 18 months, but before that, it didn't, did it? So we've got to look at that situation. What are you going to get? Returns with gold can be very, very interesting because sometimes it will do nothing. So that could be, yeah. However, it hasn't been too bad. Some of the distributions have actually dropped quite a bit. So I don't know whether that is due to price performance. But overall, it's just how it is. Again, same situation. These returns are not guaranteed. But again, it's gold exposure. It is a monthly income. It could do well when gold is trending or volatile. So just because it is calls, okay? So that could be a big thing. But it is not, put it this way, it is not the same as holding gold. So if you just buy this thing, I'm holding gold, you're not. You are not holding gold at all. So just be mindful of that. And covered calls can also limit upside, okay? So they will trim it a lot. So just be mindful. And yes, if gold falls, that income may well get absolutely cataclysmically battered, even if you are going to make a distributed percentage of 12% pretty much every single month, which, yes, it does add up. But as I say, growth's king. What I will say, if you are like quite a knowledgeable advanced investor, especially if you like gold, this could be an option, but I'd personally rather just buy gold personally. Same vibes, by the way. Going to the next one, silver, same situation. Covered calls, Similar sort of distribution of yield. Again, it's silver exposure in a way, monthly income. Yeah, you get the idea. Same thing, but this is more volatile. This has more chances of it going a bit more nuts. So be mindful. As well, inception date, we're very new. We're just over a year. So stuff like that, yeah, okay. So the price swings of silver recently has been amazing, but that isn't alone to go, oh, we're going to buy this, because these have been a bit messy, not the best in terms of distribution of shares. Yeah, the gains have been amazing, but we all know that you probably would have been better off just buying silver, to be fair, because overall silver has, I think, returned incredible versus this. Essentially, you could probably argue. I'm not quite sure off the top of my head what silver returns have been, but I'm pretty sure it's in the three figures at one point. So yeah, there's a bit of a haircut there. Now, the last one that popped up before when I was doing a bit of research, again, another new one, and I've seen a few people talk about this one. It is essentially technology innovation. Now, this is mental, right? I don't recommend this, but it's got quite a high expense ratio with obviously the fees. There's only 30 million euros in it, so it's quite small, and it's got a tiny amount of time in the market, right? So that's going to be massive. But the reason why this is going to get interest is because of what it is. Obviously, max inception, yes, done all right recently. Huge yield of 15.75%. But at the end of the day, the volatility is through the roof, 19%. This is just basically an absolute bucket load of innovation stocks, which you all know can be quite crazy. So yes, it does have some exposure to that, obviously monthly income, but just be mindful. The more you go down the rabbit hole, the more you'll find. You will find stuff that is utter dog shit, which could lead to be some very big problems. But yeah, let's do a little mini simulation on Snowball to see what these figures could be. But ultimately, you got to take with a big pinch of salt that those returns of the growth could be absolutely dampened. This is why many people, if you're new, will look at this and you go, wow, £5,000 and I can make £582 every single year on dividends. It's not as easy as that. You need money. And cash flow is king in one way at a certain point in your life. I get it. But having capital and being able to make it work for you is even better. We know that. That's key. That's the thing, right? Could talk about this all day. 11.55%. That's amazing. But is it too good to be true? Probably. What if you lose your £5,000? Probably pretty quickly. I said at the start of this video, if you want to split up your portfolio into a little bucket and have high income sources, if you want to, you can. There's nothing wrong with you doing that. But don't go all in, because even though I put like £1,000 roughly in each as a simulation, that is what the results are telling me. And again, it's not amazing. Even on the dividend calculator, you're going to get roughly 50 quid a month. Lovely, isn't it? When you think about it in that sense. So 50 quid a month, is it worth it? Probably not. Yes, don't get me wrong, if you put more money in, and I know people would, but as I say, if you start editing these numbers and putting an extra chunk in and just going into, stupid numbers. So let me just edit this. I mean, even at £80,000, yeah, there's going to be a little bit of a kind of a ripsaw with the whole volatility side of this one if it goes a bit mental, but £8,500 a year, yeah, it'd be quite nice, wouldn't it? But ultimately, at the end of the day, my portfolio gives me about 4% passive income, and they've grown quite a lot in terms of value. Yeah, it does all right, but it just depends, doesn't it? So what would you rather do? For me, I'd rather, yeah, you can see it, very simple, 700 quid a month, or would you rather have, it's a huge question, and I know it's going to create a lot of debate, so let me know in the comments what you think. But the questions you got to ask yourself, what is the underlying asset? How stable is the appreciation of those assets going to be? Because we've seen before with many assets, you can buy something that has a high dividend yield as a company, but the balance sheet is awful. These are ETFs, it's a little bit different. It depends on the performance. So they're not going to, I don't think, melt completely, but they may not, as I've showcased before, grow anywhere near what the actual underlying NASDAQ, for example, would do. But the main thing is obviously, where do the three income sources come from? Obviously, real company dividends is one. You got option premiums, covered calls. That's another one. Return of capital, price movements, and the volatility around there. A lot of these high ETFs, yields come from premiums, which is different. You've got to understand where that income comes from, or you don't fully understand the investment. But the situation is, how will they survive in a choppy market, a sideways market, or a very high rise and volatile market? We just don't know, because some of these funds haven't been in the market long enough. But there we go. I don't want to go too deep because it is a very interesting topic, but ultimately one probably for another day as well. If you enjoy this sort of thing, please do leave a like and subscribe to the channel. But more importantly, let me know, are you liking these? Are you in these? I know some people are because you comment quite a lot about them. But yeah, let me know. But if you want some UK dividend stocks, there's a little video here that will give you some clear and obvious good picks.